So what happens if I'm arrested by CBP or ICE? Let's talk a little bit about CBP first. So CBP usually operates within 100 miles from a border. So for those of us in California, that means, and you've probably seen them before, that there's checkpoints all along 5 freeway and other freeways where there are inspection sites, right? So if you are undocumented, you might want to talk to an attorney about whether or not it's safe for you to travel near a border. This would apply to any state along the border with Mexico or with Canada. So, and CBP can also detain you at an airport. So it's really important to have that conversation if you're intending to travel. When you are arrested or detained by CBP, there is a difference in terms of what rights you might have as someone who's undocumented, or even if you have a green card. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, what the policies are when you are detained by CBP. So first thing, if you are found to be traveling within 100 miles of the border, CBP, if they have reason to suspect that you are not a citizen of the United States and that you do not have legal status, they can detain you. And here's the trick: they can detain you for 72 hours without giving you a phone call, without access to an attorney. At that point, the only person who has authority to request your whereabouts is your consulate. So if you are from Guatemala, if you are from any other part of Latin America, and you are detained by CBP, then the consulate for your country will have to call, and they all have someone who works primarily with ICE and with CBP, will have to call and verify that their national is actually in ICE or CBP custody. The second thing to keep in mind is that if they believe that you are attempting to enter the United States, CBP can move to remove you expeditiously. That means they don't have to give you a court hearing. That means they don't have to give you any rights at the border if they believe that you are attempting to enter the United States or haven't been in the United States for longer than 2 years. You can ask for a hearing with a judge. You will have, especially if you can prove that you've been living here longer than 2 years, you will have the opportunity to request a bond. But depending on where you are apprehended, if you are in San Diego, for example, if you are near the border in Washington State, the CBP officer can decide to detain you in any facility that they have room. And so if you Google ICE or CBP policies on detention, you will see that there is a paragraph that addresses detention centers and capacities. And so if they deem that their detention facility is over capacity, they can place you in a detention facility outside of where they apprehended you. And so this is very difficult for myself and my colleagues because, for example, I had a client who had to check in with an officer in San Isidro, right, which is right at the border of San Diego, California. But when she was finally released from CBP, she was transferred all the way to Haskell, Texas. I had another client that was detained and placed in Theo Lacey, which is over here in Orange County. He was transferred over to Louisiana. And so I think as part of a tactic, ICE and CBP will start placing people in detention facilities, and as these facilities either get too crowded or because they don't want people to have access to their families or their lawyers, they will be placing people in facilities maybe far away from their families and far away from their lawyers. So we talked about this yesterday. Keeping an emergency fund for a possible bond or an attorney is important, but if you don't have to be near the border, at this point, over the next few years, just exercise a lot of caution when you are traveling. And if you need to talk to an attorney beforehand to see what your options are or what your risks are, you should give our office a call. Thank you.